I'm Lexi. So I thought we would do a little bit more meal prep today. And before we get started, I want to promise you two things. Number one, I am not going to cut the top of my head off for this entire video. I have actually learned that my tripod goes higher than I thought it did. So, yay! Problem solved. Number two, this is a much simpler recipe than the lasagna we did last time, but I promise you I'm going to do my best for this video to not be 47 minutes long. Or do you like the longer videos? Because I can accommodate that too. You let me know. In the interest of time, I already have some chicken in a pot on the stove boiling. Today we are going to make 3 full-size chicken pot pies and a couple of mini ones. Why and a couple of mini ones, you ask? Because I own 3 full-size pie pans. But for that number of chicken pot pies, I put 3.5 pounds of chicken in the pot to boil. I would say you want to leave it in there for about half an hour, but mine was still a little bit frozen, so just check it. You want it cooked through. But while we're waiting for that, I figured we could get the pans ready and chop some of the vegetables. Getting the pans ready for this is also much simpler than with the lasagna. All we're going to do is take a piece of parchment paper in the bottom of each pie pan. And then, you know what? I'm just going to stack them. Once we put the food in here, and it goes in the freezer, because that's the point of freezer meals. Should have ripped that one a little bit bigger. I'll make it work. Was that the third one? No, I forgot the second one. What am I doing? You know what? I don't like that. Well, anyway, once we put the food in here, we're going to put some foil on top of them and put them in the freezer. And then once they're frozen, you just pop them out and put the disc of food into a Ziploc bag. And that's how it's going to store. They store very nicely. They're pretty flat, so they stack nicely in the freezer. And they stay pretty much out of the way. I'm just going to tuck this back here, out of my way for now, and clean up a bit when I have a minute. I like to put a lot of vegetables in my chicken pot pies, so we are going to start with some onions. I've got a couple halves of an onion here, some slices left over from dinner, and a whole other onion. So I'm just going to get these chopped up. And then I can set them aside. It is getting quite warm in here with that chicken boiling away. Hopefully it's done soon so I can turn the pan off. I was worried I might need one more onion, but this looks pretty sufficient for basically 3.5 pot pies. I know in England, savory pies are quite popular, but here in America, we don't do a lot of them. Pot pies, with chicken being the most popular variety, is probably the most popular one. Probably the only savory pie we really do. I'm going to find a bowl to put this in. Hang on. Scoot those all up in there and get them out of my way. And I do my pot pies a little bit different than most people. I don't like to put a bottom crust on, but if you want a bottom crust, by all means, put a bottom crust. I use puff pastry. where in America, probably short crust or pie crust is more popular. Next up is some mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I know a lot of people don't. I do, so I'm going to put some in. Probably going to put in about half this container. A little more than half this container. That'll leave me like one more meal's worth of mushrooms for later in the week. Where was I? If you prefer pie crust or short crust pastry to puff pastry, by all means, do that. Do what you like. But this is how I make, that one is not chopping nicely. This is how I make my chicken pot pies. I needed a bigger bowl, didn't I? We'll just use these for overflow for now. Sorry if I'm blinking a lot. My eyes are going a little wonky from the onions. They usually don't do that to me. Okay. And then I'm going to cut up some potatoes. I went with 2 potatoes per pie, plus 1 for the halves. And I've got this funny one here, so you know what? Let's use that one instead of one of the normal ones. And I'm just going to leave the skins on because I'm lazy. If you don't like potato skins, peel the potato skins. You do you. I am most definitely going to need another bowl or something because I still need to deal with the chicken. They can sit in the pan, right? That won't hurt anything. Wonky potatoes are still tasty potatoes. Give your wonky fruits and vegetables some love. Although I'll give you, they are a little harder to slice. Now normally, I would probably be cutting some celery for in here too. But I used up the rest of my celery a while ago and haven't caught it on sale since. And celery's kind of expensive. So I tend to only buy it when I can find it on sale. That is all the potatoes. There's a couple of bad spots in that one. It's all right. They can come out pretty easily. And now I am going to check that chicken again. Just going to cut this in half. No more pink in there. Yay, I can turn the pot off. Now for chicken pot pies, I like my chicken shredded. And that's why I boil it, because it shreds easy. It shreds easily that way. Now, you don't need to watch me sit here and shred 3.5 pounds of chicken, because this is going to take me a few minutes. So, I'll see you in a minute. I got all that chicken shredded up. Quite a lot of chicken. And since we have all the pieces, except for one, I figured we'd go ahead and put them together, kind of condense a few bowls. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a generous helping of chicken into each pan. There's plenty here. No need to be stingy about it. And these are for the mini ones. I can do more than 2 minis if I need to, but if I do, the containers are up there, and this is my overhead camera, so I'm a little stuck. These shredded pieces I know are kind of big, but that's all right. That's the way I like them. And I just shredded these with a fork. You saw that. I know that they make those meat claw things, and maybe they do an easier job of it, a faster job of it. I don't know. What I do know is they take up more space in the drawer, and I don't have more drawer space. Okay, that's the chicken. Next, we'll throw in some mushrooms. If I have extra vegetables, I'll just put them aside and do something with them tomorrow. This is actually the first time I have meal prepped pot pies. I usually don't make more than one. But I thought that they'd probably freeze well. I'll let you know that here, somewhere. Some onion. Have some mushrooms on the run. Okay, potatoes. And some frozen mixed vegetables, because that's just easier, right? Just bash them on the counter a few times to break them up if they've been sitting in your freezer a while. And sorry if I am looking at the wrong camera. This is the first time I've tried to set up with 3 cameras. So yeah, not sure where I want to look yet. I'll figure it out. You can use whatever vegetables you like in these. If you don't like peas, get a mix that doesn't have peas. If you want to do cauliflower, do cauliflower. If you want to do turnips, do turnips. The garden is your menu. I should have gotten the same brand, because this one has carrot slices and the other one had carrot pieces, and I think I like the carrot pieces better. Those look nice and full. But we are missing one very important component. Well, 2 components. We're missing the pastry, but I'll get to that later. We are missing gravy. But I forgot to bring something in for that, so I'm going to have to go get that. And in the meantime, so that my curious cat, who's being very vocal with his desire for chicken, does not get these, because, let's face it, he doesn't know the word no when it comes to food. I'm going to tuck these into the turned off oven for safekeeping. They won't be in there long. I am going to grab a couple more ingredients, and then we'll make some gravy. I'll be right back. Gravy time! And the first thing you need when you're going to make gravy is a roux. We've talked about this a little bit before. To make a roux, you need butter, And you need flour. About half a stick of butter. That's what we'll go with. If we don't have enough gravy, I can make more gravy, but I think this will probably be enough. And flour, but we need that butter to melt first. Butter is nice and melty, so it's time to add the flour. Just going to add that in. And give it a stir. And you want this to kind of resemble a paste. I usually make my roux kind of thick, thicker than most people do, I think, but it's always came out well for me. Let's see if I can show it to you. Kind of like that. And you want to let it cook on the heat for a minute or two. That will help to get rid of any raw flour flavor. While we're doing that, sorry if that's an awkward shot, we need chicken stock. And I don't know how much of this I need, so I brought 2 of them. But I know I'm going to need at least 1. Yes, this is a cheese slicer. It is also an amazing thing for opening this kind of jar. You just can't do it while I'm holding it. Just wedge it under and lift. And it's beautiful. No more hurting your hands trying to open a jar. I'm going to add about 1/4 of this to start. I find it's easier to add in and avoid lumps, get it nice and smooth, if I start with just a little bit at a time. That's how it looks after the first addition. Still pretty pasty, it thickens up pretty fast. I'm going to add about another 1/3 of it. By all means, you can do this with a whisk. I just don't have a silicone whisk and I don't want to scratch up my pan. I should probably get myself a silicone whisk one of these days, huh? I don't think we're going to need that second jar of stock. This is looking pretty good. Once you've got that nice and reasonably smooth, add in the rest. I'm getting kind of a pile of dishes here I have to catch up on, aren't I? I know, clean as I go. I'm not good at that. And then I'm going to add a splash of white wine. Yep. There's a little more than a glass left in here. And I added about half of what was left. I'll drink that later when we're done. Shh. I may have to go ahead and resort to the whisk. Got some lumps that are being stubborn. And I know that my chicken stock has no salt in it. So I'm going to add a pretty good amount of salt right to start. If you buy stock from the grocery store that already has salt in it, you want to salt pretty conservatively at this point, because as the stock reduces, the salt is going to concentrate, and you don't want a super salty gravy. This is just some pepper I'm adding. I like it pretty peppery. And some garlic. Yeah. Parsley and thyme. Thyme is probably my favorite herb. I grow a lot of it in my herb garden, and I go through a lot of it. That was kind of a lot of parsley. It's alright, I've never heard anyone say that a dish was ruined by too much parsley. And thyme. Okay, so you just want to let this simmer and reduce down until you've got a nice medium thickness gravy. So I will see you when this is done. All right, so this is thickened up nicely. You can see that it coats the back of a spoon. Let's give it a taste. Salt's good. I think I'm going to add some more pepper and some rosemary. Not too much rosemary, because that can be pretty strong. Turn that off. Give this one more stir. And then I am going to get those pot pies out of the oven where we stashed them, and move the camera back so I can get into the regular section of counter, and we'll finish putting these together. Okay, so now the only thing we have to do is make a mess, apparently, because that's the first thing I did, is to distribute this gravy into these pans. Looks like about 3 ladles for each of the bigger pans. And about half a ladle for each of the minis. Just gonna scrape it. We're gonna scrape it into this one. Just gonna scrape this out. Don't want to waste any of that goodness. And put this in the sink. Now, despite what my oven clock says, it is almost 9 p.m. at night. So the mini ones are going to be for dinner tomorrow. And these 3 are going to get stuck in the freezer for a later date. Don't worry that it doesn't look like the gravy is distributing. It will as it cooks. So to freeze these, all we're going to do right now is put a piece of foil over top of them so they don't make a mess everywhere in the freezer. And then I mentioned, once these are frozen, you just pop the food puck up out of the pie pan and stick it in a Ziploc bag and stack them in your freezer. To cook these, I would recommend thawing them. So you're going to take your food puck out of its bag, peel the parchment paper off and put it back in his pie pan. Put some foil over it and let it thaw in the refrigerator overnight. If you're going with frozen puff pastry, you'll want to let that thaw in the refrigerator overnight too. When you go to cook these, you will unroll or open up your puff pastry, set it on top, poke a few vent holes, and then bake this at 425 for 25, 30, 35 minutes until the inside is hot and bubbly and the pastry is golden brown and delicious. Just need to cover the mini ones because even though they're going in the fridge, we don't want them to spill everywhere. Just pop these in the fridge for later. And it's that easy. That's all it takes to make 4 dinners worth of chicken pot pie. So my future self will thank me when I can pull one of these out of the oven and I don't have to cook it. If you had nearly as much fun today as I had, if you could give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. Oh, and let me know down below if you like these food prep videos. I know they can be quite popular online, and I can do a few more of them. There's a few more things that I like to food prep. So let me know that down below, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye!